I call the member Denise Roche in a 5-minute split call.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise to take a short call on this bill, the Sentencing Protection of Children from Criminal Offending Amendment Bill. This bill, sir, is an excellent example of the democratic process, how our Parliament should develop our legislation. And I just want to acknowledge the people who are in the gallery today, the young people who've come along to witness democracy in action. This is where the laws are made. Thank you for coming. I also want to congratulate the member who brought this bill to the House in her name, Asanati Lawley-Taylor, and acknowledge her work on the bill of bringing it through the first reading into select committee. And also acknowledging Mr Peter Pirauni and congratulating him for shepherding it through this part of the process. It is without doubt a well-intentioned member's bill. Mr Speaker, we supported this bill to select committee, as did most parties in this House, because we wanted the people of New Zealand to have a say on a potential addition to the law around sentencing criminals who have committed crimes in and around children while they were present. I, sir, wasn't on the select committee, but I have reviewed the advice from the officials, the 10 written submissions, and of course the report back to the House. And it's obvious from reviewing that there's been a lot of care and attention and discussion that's gone up into weighing up the pros and cons of this bill. Mr Speaker, that is how our legislative process should work, because frequently it's not until a bill has got the full weight of parliamentary services to investigate it, where the public and experts have the opportunity to examine the bill, and where MPs can pick it to pieces during the select committee process, that you actually get to scrutinise our legislation and what we are doing and what we're proposing to do in great detail. Now, just by the way, that's one of the reasons why the Greens love democracy so much, and also why we are frequently opposed to the use of urgency as a shortcut in the legislative process. But back to this bill, sir. We come back to the recommendation to the House from the Law and Order Select Committee, and basically they've recommended that this bill not go any further, and we will be supporting that recommendation. Essentially, we acknowledge that this bill is and was well-intentioned, and we agree, of course, that children should be protected from the harm of being present when crimes are committed. And this was a unanimous response from all the submitters on the bill, sir. But we don't think this bill will do that. By the time the sentence is imposed on the offender, the harm to the child is already done, and we must find ways of preventing that harm, be the ambulance at the top of the cliff, not at the bottom. And I was heartened, sir, by the submission from the Salvation Armies that did look at how we sentence offenders, and I was struck by the wisdom of some of their comments, and I'd like to refer to some of their submission, where they said, if we seek to protect vulnerable children, a concentrated preventative approach to reducing offending and re-offending is required. Therefore, we submit that protecting vulnerable children from harm in these situations is not always achieved by an increase in punishment. Whilst we support the removal of risk from a child's environment, longer sentences and the separation of children from their parents through prison has also itself been identified as a risk factor for intergenerational criminal activity, sir. And sir, I would add that there's really no evidence that longer sentences act as a deterrent to crime. Sir, there have been no gaps in the current sentencing practice and the current sentencing law identified by any of the Ministry of Justice officials. So this bill basically does nothing to prevent the harm of children or to fill any kind of legislative gap. For that reason, sir, though we acknowledge the good intentions of it, we will be opposing this bill. Thank you.